Okay, off you go.
Cool. Welcome, everyone. This is the Australian Electric Vehicle Association's webinar series on EV insurance. The last one we had was quite successful, where we spoke about used electric cars and where things are trending. Um, and this one's going to be on EV insurance, where we've got some really exciting speakers who will be sharing their insights into what goes into EV insurance and how that sector is changing, and some of the trends and challenges and opportunities. Um, Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on the past, present, and elders that we sit on. Um, I guess moving into the topic itself, before we get into it, I'd like to invite our Australian Electric Vehicle Association's president, um, Chris Jones, who would like to share a bit of a message on what's going on with our association and all the things that we're sort of doing and involved with, and how we're sort of accelerating the adoption of electric vehicles. Chris, would you like to join us?
Cool. Yes. Thanks, Riz. Thanks for the little bit of soapbox before we get back stuck into the webinar. Just thought I'd want to let our membership know that we have been working really hard over the last 12 months to formulate really clear policy positions and to grow our membership base and make sure that our members get good value for money for their annual membership fees. And so one of those things has been making sure that our business members who we've partnered with over the years are able to convey any discounts and special offers, exclusive deals to AEVA members. And we've started to list these on our website under the membership tab. So if you go there, you'll find membership benefits. You'll find a list of immediate obvious benefits of joining the association, but also some of the businesses who've been able to offer discounts or specials. If you're a business member or you know a business member or you'd like to become a business member, sign up and let us know, and we'll try and list any specials or offers that you've got there. Another thing that we've done is that we've added a jobs board to our website. So if you go under resources on our website, you'll find the jobs board, and that's an opportunity for any of our members to list employment opportunities in the world of electric vehicles, electrical engineering, charging infrastructure, even policy, public service positions, all welcome to advertise anything in the EV or EV adjacent world there. It's easy enough. Anyone who's logged into the website can add a job. We'll obviously see that come through, make sure that everything's legit, and we'll pop it up on the website. Of course, while you're logged into the website, don't forget to vote for Australia's best public charger. We've got a little form online where you can vote on that. And we're looking for chargers that sort of hit all the right notes. They're reliable, they're fast, but they're also in a nice spot with good amenities, public toilets, and a welcoming, friendly town. They're the kind of things that we really want to celebrate, I suppose, as we roll out more charging infrastructure around the country. And we'll announce the winners to that at the National Conference in Hobart on the 1st of November. And don't forget, we'll also have a members survey going out next month. So we really encourage all of our members to engage with that and give us feedback. And yeah, I might just finish up by saying, you know, we've cracked 1,500 members, and we're determined to hit 2,000 members by the end of the year. So yeah, please get the word out and, you know, share our links on Facebook and X and Blue Sky and LinkedIn, and keep up to date with all the work that the association's doing. So yeah, thanks for that, Riz, and enjoy the webinar.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris. It's really good to know the progress that we've made since November last year when we got together in Perth, particularly around the membership value, and our business members are a key part of that success. So yeah, feel free to support them and yeah, follow through on some of the things that Chris has just shared with us as well. So without further ado, let's have a quick, a quick summary of, why we're here in terms of why this particular topic of EV insurance You know, there's a couple of there's myths, there's probably some facts and things going around EVs being more expensive to insure. Some of us are seeing our premiums rise, others are sort of seeing it stabilize, depending on which part of the country you're in. So what does it all mean, and how all of that stuff is actually worked out, you know, behind then some of the research that goes into you know, the insurance sector, and how when things are changing, such as the rise of EVs, what does it mean for all of us? So we've got three excellent experts who are our guest panelists today. I'd like to start with Shawn Ticehurst, who is involved with IAG. He's the head of IAG Research Centre in Sydney. He'll be talking to us about basically all the things that we don't really hear about, what goes into EV insurance, and is there a method, or is it all just spreadsheets that figure out what happens? So IAG Australia is Australia and New Zealand's largest general insurer, with brands such as NRMA, Rollins, CGU, and others. The IAG Research Centre focuses on automotive research in topics such as repairs, building relationships with OEM vehicle brands, and creating repair innovation. And part of obviously all of that is to understand what goes into EV insurance. So without further ado, Shawn, would you like to join us and share a little bit more about what you do? Give us a bit of insight on, you know, what is happening at IAG Research, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot from it.
Thank you, Riz. Great to be here, everyone. Really pleased to join you this evening and talk about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles is a topic I've been involved in now for close to 10 years. So I've seen the growth here from those early days when it was I was trying to sell EVs or promote EVs through my work at BMW at the time. And I can tell you every single one of those i3s we tried to sell in 2015 was a hard sell. But there was some really passionate people at the time, I still remember. And you could just tell this was the start of something big. So it's fantastic to be here now, 9 years later, and seeing the growth not only globally but here in Australia. So Riz gave an introduction on who I am and who IAG is. So the brands you'll know us for NRMA Insurance, Roland Insurance, CGU for anyone with a business type of insurance. The research centre that I run is based here in Sydney on the edge of Olympic Park. We do research into all things automotive, vehicle repair, building relationships with the major vehicle brands here in Australia, creating repair innovations, and then researching new technology. And in that new technology space, electric vehicles are probably 80% of our focus right now, with then things like driver assistance systems, autonomous cars, connected cars, starting filling the rest of that 100%. As I mentioned, I've been involved with EVs for 10 years. I've been in the automotive industry for just over 30 and previously worked with brands such as BMW and Audi. So in terms of EVs, we at IAG, especially through NRMA Insurance and our Roland brands, we actively want to support EVs. So I know many of you on this call would have policies with us, so thank you for that. We want to support EVs and we want to grow our expertise, and that's the task that really rests with me and my team at the research centre, is to grow that expertise. Claims history of EVs is limited, just purely based on the fact that the cars haven't been around for that long, and have really only started to take off in any sort of sales volume over the last less than 2 years, as everyone on this call would know. So we just don't have a lot of claims history, and that's important for insurance. We've got to fill that gap with research and getting data, busting myths, getting the facts on the table. The other challenge that the other challenge that's faced EVs is repair costs have been high in the past, and that's flowed through to insurance. The underwriters and the people that do pricing in the insurance world look at history to try and predict the future. And when the repair costs are high, they're naturally thinking, well, we've got to price for that high risk in the future. That's why we're doing the research we're doing right now at the IAG Research Centre, to start to show that maybe some of that history will change for the better in the future. I'm pleased to say that we get EVs into the research centre. We've got great relationships with most major vehicle brands here in Australia, and we've now covered over 85% of the current electric vehicle models on the market. So we've seen them in our research centre and looked at their damageability, their repairability, their driver assistance systems, their parts pricing, and so on. I think we've got a fairly high-selling EV model that's just hit the market coming into the research centre next week. I think we'll hit 90% coverage with that car. So we've got good coverage. Some of the other facts that we're seeing, just to share with this audience, facts that come through our claims data. Claims costs for EVs are generally comparable with petrol and diesel vehicles. Now, it's important to start to break things down after that, it's difficult to bundle EVs together as a group. And it's important to actually start to then break it down into brands. Now, we need to do that work. I didn't tonight specifically want to call out certain brands, but in general, the claims costs for EVs are starting to come down now to be comparable. Converse, on the opposite side of that, though, what we're seeing is claims frequency being higher for some electric vehicle models, and we're investigating why that is. In a lot of cases, you probably logically think that doesn't make sense. These are some of the most high-tech cars on the market with some of the best driver assistance systems in the market. So shouldn't they avoid having accidents? So we're trying to investigate why that is, but it's a simple fact that we are seeing some high claims frequency on some EV models. Some of the other facts that we've got is at the moment, electric vehicles are taking longer to repair than petrol and diesel cars. It can be up to a week longer. Now, some of that can be due to the fact that the repair network is still learning how to deal with these cars, and they're also learning new brands as well. That's the other important factor to throw in here. A lot of the high-selling EV models are new or relatively new brands, and the repair network is still understanding that. But the fact is, at the moment, they are taking longer to repair. And we actively are working with the OEM vehicle brands, the different car brands here in Australia, to find out why and reduce that time back down. A lot of it's got to do with the repair network concentration and the fact that some repairers aren't or can't handle EVs at the moment. A lot of that repair network's been trained up to handle EVs, and the training is not comprehensive. It can be done relatively easily, but it's crucial that it is done from a safety perspective. So getting that repair network set up and up to speed is happening, but it does take some time to do. One other point I'll just do, two things I'll finish off with. One's a point and another one's, I suppose, a finishing comment. The first point is around battery testing. And it's something that would be interesting to hear from people on this call too. We think battery testing is, and basically what I mean by that is the state of health of an EV's battery, is crucial to happen at regular intervals and probably annually. It just feeds into so many things, obviously resale value for the cars in the future and helping to guide the used car market. But so many things also about the health of the battery as they age, which we're seeing will be increasingly important. So that's a topic we're actively talking about now, and yeah, we'd love to hear others' opinions on that. Some way to have regular testing of electric vehicle batteries. So I'll finish up with just saying we actively want to support EVs. We're optimistic about insuring EVs in the future as more facts come to life, and especially as the OEMs, the vehicle brands, support EVs through the repair cycle, which we are actively starting to see. So I'll finish up with that and hand back to you, Riz.
Thanks so much, Shawn. That's very insightful. I mean, these are some of the things that we as EV owners and the industry doesn't share enough, the amount of research that goes in the background of determining some of these things that come to hand. So yeah, that's really good to know, and I'm sure our audience will have plenty of questions on the back of that. So really appreciate it. Now on to another guest speaker today. Steven Cratchley is currently with Suncorp Group. He's a specialist on advanced automotive technologies and has been investigating these for many years. He's particularly well connected worldwide in this space, with working with those who use this technology. Steve has worked in many fields at Suncorp, strategy and so Stephen, would you like to, unmute and yeah, share some of those insights?
Okay, great. You froze up a little bit there, but that's all good. I think people sort of understand where I'm placed and what I do. Can I share my screen? It's saying sharing not on at the moment. Sharing not enabled for some reason. Host isn't allowing multiple presenters for sharing for this webinar.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Ben might need your help with that one.
Yeah, won't be a sec.
It's great when you've got local tech support.
So I'll start talking while we're waiting for that to come through. First of all, I think I'm going to be probably mirroring a lot of what Shawn said then. It's probably good that we share similar findings between our organizations, which is not surprising because we're all working in the same industry. We all are dealing with the same types of vehicles and really the same types of issues that we see every day. So I've put together a little slide pack. I did a little bit of investigation in this just internally. One of my roles was working in the pricing team, not as an actuary. I take my shoes off to count to 20. I'm not one of those incredibly smart rocket scientist type guys. But actually loading the vehicle data, managing a team that a bit like what some of Shawn's team do, load the data into our systems and make sure the data is accurate and correct. And we were actually ensuring, I think some of the first locally produced EVs, I think they were called Blades back in the day, retrofitted Hyundais with that were shipped over with engine blanks and then converted to EVs in Australia. So we've been insuring EVs for a long time in Australia, and as Shawn said, a very small market to start with, but it's growing every year and or every week, every day these days. But some of the interesting things that for me in our market is that we're seeing so many new brands coming to Australia. We're seeing a lot of new imports from China, a lot of new brands, a lot of new technology, and we're now getting to this incredibly crowded market. It's always been a very dynamic market, but I think it's getting even more dynamic now. But with that, we do get some challenges here. So we used to see a spike in just battery electric vehicles. We're now seeing a bit of a spike in hybrids at the moment, but I think we're going to move back to that spike in pure battery EVs as that technology improves, the range improves, and that the charging network improves as well. So for us at Suncorp, we're focused on not just hybrids or battery electric vehicles. It's really all those new energy vehicles that are coming to our market, and we do support them as Shawn said as well, and it's something that we continue to see growing as the fastest growing segment in our market. But some of the things that do impact pricing, and I wish I had good news on all of these, but yeah, unfortunately, some of these vehicles do have some challenges. So for EVs especially, we do see a higher average sum insured, and that obviously leads to a higher premium for insurance. The other challenge for both battery and hybrids is that we see higher average loss ratios, claims cost, and claim frequency than fossil fuel vehicles. Now they are improving, as Shawn said, they're getting better and better, and these days it's getting fairly close to what it was 6 months ago or even 12 months ago, much better than what it was 12 months ago. So as the data comes in, we are seeing improvements there, but at this point in time, we are still seeing those high frequency, especially as Shawn said. And to me, it's an interesting one, frequency, and some of the research we've seen from overseas could lie in the extra weight of the vehicle. So the vehicle's having a higher inertia. So if they do have an impact, it does tend to do more damage. And of course, these vehicles have lots of technology in them, which does tend to add up. The other challenges that we see with these new vehicles is that supply chains for some of the younger brands especially are a real challenge. So if we need to get parts for some of these vehicles and the parts aren't in Australia, or they're coming because it's a young brand, they're still setting up their supply chain network, that impacts the repair times, that then extends hire car costs, and again, those costs end up flowing through to insurance costs. So they're a couple of the challenges that we're seeing. And of course, with new vehicles, whether you're an owner buying parts or whether you're an insurer buying parts to repair a vehicle, some of the OEM parts that come through are incredibly expensive, especially if there's ADAS components. And then the challenges around calibrating those systems as well can be quite expensive or time consuming, especially if you're going into rural Australia or remote Australia. So there's some of the challenges that we do face. But on a positive, whilst we do see some headwinds, we are incredibly supportive of the transition to these new energy vehicles. Suncorp's transitioning its own fleet to either hybrids or EVs, depending on where the vehicles and the staff are located and what best suits their needs. And we also see that as the technology in these vehicles improves, I think it's going to attract a lot of new entrants to the repairer market and the industry. You're going to get a lot of younger people interested in autonomous vehicles, as somebody that's I've been working in for probably 15 years now. So as those sorts of vehicles come through, I think we're going to get that new young blood coming into the industry, and it's going to help increase that workforce, because that's been one of the struggles I think a lot of repairers have had recently, is getting apprentices, getting new staff in. So I think as the technology increases, the vehicles get more interesting, I think we'll get some real drive and growth in apprentices and staff coming through. So there's some of the sort of facts that I've got, and yeah, that's my little slide deck there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Stephen. Yeah, I guess, it's one industry. There's similar challenges. There's also some of the things around new brands, and it's like as some of you know, I write for The Driven, and literally every second day I'm writing about a new model or new EV that's launching in the market. So there's a challenge that, not only that the industry needs to work together to sort of face, but working with external parties as well, whether it's battery manufacturers or recyclers, repair businesses and others, getting them up to speed, working with government. So there's a lot of moving parts as part of this transition. Absolutely. Which I know we'll get there. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And it's such an exciting time in the Australian auto industry. So whilst there's challenges and headwinds, it's also lots of opportunity and lots of excitement.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, it's everyday drivers that have more options when it comes to, not only new products such as electric vehicles, but also the market itself is changing quite quickly. So it is definitely an exciting time. Thank you so much, Stephen. Now, our final guest speaker tonight is Richard Lindsay. Richard Lindsay's 2022 Australian Teacher Trainer of the Year. And he's from TAFE Centre of Excellence, where he will be coming and talking about some of those things around workplace training, and particularly as we move into this new era, what does it mean for the future workforce that is going to form part of the technicians, apprentices, and those that will be working on the cars of today and those in the future. Richard, would you like to join us? And yeah, love to hear what you have to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'll just quickly share my screen. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay, can everyone see that there now? Yep.
Yep.
Beauty. Rightio. So I'll just get through. Rightio. So what we'll do first, some of this will sort of overlap a little bit with what Steve and Shawn have already just mentioned, but I'll just go through. I've chosen 3 myths that we constantly hear, and I'll sort of elaborate a little bit on that, on what's truth, what's not, and then we can go through from there. So basically, the first myth that I'll be going through is EVs are more expensive to repair than ICE vehicles. Now, I'll be going on sort of let's just say the cost of ownership. I'm talking about just normal service and repair, and also on the smash repair side as we go through. And I'll touch on the sort of qualified personnel after that. So the first one will be EVs more expensive than ICE vehicles. Smash repairs for EVs are prohibitively costly and lack of specialised mechanics and repairers. Okay, the first one, with the normal service and repair costs, for all of you that are on here that have got EV cars, a lot of this is not new information for you, but if there is any out there that are new to the EV side, then this will sort of just add a little bit to context to the story. Okay, so obviously fewer moving parts, so less wear and tear, less mechanical repairs, and more on the software update side of things with the normal everyday maintenance of the vehicle. Average cost for common issues for brakes, steering, suspensions, all the same as the normal ICE engines. EVs have increased service intervals in a lot of situations, so that reduces the cost of ownership. And the main extra increased cost for EVs is obviously the battery over time, but most of the batteries are covered by the 8-year warranty, so it's normally for wear and tear after that point. Now, when we get into the smash repairs, so when Ben reached out to see whether I could be a part of this meeting, I had a few phone calls out to repairers in our area, and also adding to conversations that I've had with repairers in the past. Just sort of this is some of the feedback that they helped contribute to. So with the body repairs, what the repairers are seeing with all these new cars coming through is that there is a lot of improved manufacturing techniques being used in the current vehicles coming to market, and that is helping with the repair times in reducing some of those. Some of the one of the shops mentioned about how they had a Tesla in recently with kangaroo damage that actually damaged the plenum of the vehicle. In a lot of other vehicles they've seen in the past, the repair would be super costly, but with this particular vehicle, the repair was about a third of what they expected. Because of the current manufacturing techniques that are being used, so which is a plus that we're seeing coming through in the local market. The cost associated with subletting for depower and also the battery fitment is an additional cost. There is a lack of skilled tradesmen within the smash repair shop, so it does add to the cost of repair. And not only that, there is some restrictions on purchasing componentry from manufacturers without the vehicle being sent to the manufacturer to get those parts fitted. So that is adding to the cost, adding to the extended repair times. But the feedback from the repairers is also that is changing rapidly. So as time moves on, it's going to become more of a normal business for them, and that will help reduce those costs and time. Parts availability, they don't see much difference with what they're experiencing with ICE vehicles at this point in time. The main delays that they're seeing is the issues with transporting across the Red Sea that is restricting all deliveries at the moment. There is always problems with low volume importers, and that's been no different to what they've seen with ICE engines in the past. The also import dock clearance delays are ongoing. That still isn't changing. Sometimes they're seeing parts sit on the docks for 2 to 4 weeks, which is crazy. Microchip delays are still impacting for all the control modules in the vehicle, and that'll continue for quite some time yet. Are EVs taking longer to repair? Yes, as I mentioned earlier, this sort of doubles up a little bit, but the sublets for some of the repairs is extending the repairs. Also, one of the things that they mentioned is because of the increased weight of the vehicle. Whenever they get the vehicles depowered, they do have a lot more issues with moving the vehicle from one end of the workshop to the other, where with the hybrid vehicles, even though the hybrid system is depowered, they can still drive the vehicle on the ICE engine to move it from one area of the workshop to the other, or possibly to a different site. But with the EVs, once they depower it, the vehicle is dead, and they're only got the go jacks is all they can move it around the workshop. So it does slow down the movement of the vehicle through the repair process. So, but I'll touch on how they're resolving that as we get on. EVs getting written off because of battery impact. Yes, that is a big issue at the moment. Even there was one of them that had been quoted from Mercedes up to 80 to 90 grand just to replace the battery pack. But what we are starting to see coming through now is that some of the manufacturers are importing battery shells now, so that the batteries can be pulled apart and just replace the shells only, which is going to reduce the cost dramatically. So because some of the quotes that we've seen come through for just the shells is around about 6,000, which brings down that cost dramatically. Okay, with the lack of skilled workforce, by 2030, at the current progress of training across the network, we're going to only be able to cater for 17.5% of the required workforce that is going to be required to fix the vehicles. So the government has been working a lot on trying to rectify that. So the way that they're rectifying that is they've added the EV technicians to the skills needs list, which attracts extra funding to help attract employers to hire more or upskill a lot more staff. So that's one of the one of the things that's been implemented. Also, there is a huge gamut of skill sets that are being created and have already been created in a lot of situations to help bridge the skills gaps. There is the Cert 3 in electric vehicle technology available now. We at CIT have been delivering the Cert 3 in EV now for 4 years. We also train the Tesla apprenticeship program for the whole of Australia as well. And that program is slowly getting busier and busier as time gets on. So that will naturally help bridge some of these skills gaps as well. There's fee-free TAFE options that they've added EV skill sets to that fee-free TAFE to try and increase the amount of people coming through. The growing network of EV repair shops. So in the panel industry, there is more and more shops being brought on as a certified repairer, which is another way of helping increase the amount of vehicles being repaired. And as you would have heard mentioned there before, we've recently been announced as the Electric Vehicle National Centre of Excellence. And that was a $27 million investment from the Australian government to help try and speed up the amount of EV training nationally across the board. And when we talk about national training, we're talking about train the trainer for all the TAFEs in Australia, helping produce and provide training materials for all the training centres in Australia, getting out to all the rural and remote areas to help with speeding up the uptake of training staff. Also for project planning for new skills that are required that we'll find as we move further down the track. So when we're talking about hydrogen vehicles and stuff as we move on, and it may even be additional skills gaps that are identified in the EV transition that we're going to be also there doing some skills mapping to make sure that we constantly plug in whatever gaps is required to make sure we can speed up the repair process. So there's a lot of things going on in the background to help make sure that we can speed up the repairs. So in summary, the EV repairs, including smash repairs, are comparable in a lot of situations at the moment, and even lower than ICE engines. And as the market adapts to the EVs, that'll naturally bring down the cost. The more volume that comes in, it's just like anything. The more volume there is, the lower the costs become as time goes on. So yeah, so that's what I've got to add to it today. But obviously there'll be a Q&A session shortly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. That was, yeah, really insightful. And it's that bit of hope that, hey, as we're learning and getting these new products into the market, there's definitely an industry that the government and organizations and TAFEs and others are directly involved in making sure that we're sort of getting ready as we progress with it. So thank you so much for that. I guess we'll sort of kickstart the questions with one for you, Richard. Now, we mentioned that, there's all different, I guess, thought processes around. Some say insuring, or some say repairing EVs is expensive. You've touched on a couple of stories where it's actually become a bit cheaper. There's also, particularly for Teslas, there's this whole thing around gigacastings and how gigacastings can't be repaired. I've seen videos where there's stuff that can be done to them, where they've got certain points which can be repaired and replaced. But there's a bit of a myth out there that large castings that form part of an EV's body can't be repaired, and it just means the car needs to be thrown away. Is that true based on your experience? And what are your sort of thoughts?
One of the repairers that I was speaking to over the last couple of days, they're actually doing a chassis rail on one at the moment, and hasn't been a problem. That is on a Tesla. But also what they mentioned too is because a lot of the main, let's just say, the chassis strengthening areas is becoming part of the battery pack. It's actually becoming allowing the vehicles to be more repairable in a lot of situations. Where in some of the other vehicles, if they had a similar impact on a belly pan on a normal vehicle, then the vehicle could be written off because of that. But because the battery is part of that structure, the battery is replaceable, and they found that sometimes it does allow for the vehicle to be repaired, which may not have been previously.
Oh, very insightful. That's good to know. There's, like I said, if top tier mainstream media journalists wanted to write something about that, it's not the topic that they would pick, because the facts are that they are ways of doing it. And the EV manufacturers aren't making cars that are basically unrepairable. Steven,
Riz, I
Shawn,
could comment on that one too. We've looked into that, the mega casting, because we're seeing it. Tesla taking the lead on that, and others are going to follow. We're hearing about it for future EVs, so we wanted to understand it. The cars that are on the market right now have these short section repair methods, which means the typical accident damage you can repair before it even hits the mega casting. And it's that short section repair for the area where the car's likely to be damaged. And to be blunt, if you've hit the mega casting, the car's a total loss. You've done so much damage to it that it'd be beyond repair if it was any sort of car.
Yeah, fantastic. It's good to know. I guess, Stephen, did you have any comments on this particular sort of question, or we can move on to another one?
Pretty much the same as Shawn. We've looked into it as well, and agree that there's going to be a lot more coming through. A lot of OEMs are looking at this as ways to improve their manufacturing costs. But on the repairability side, it does pose new challenges, especially for the smaller shops, the remote shops. But yeah, it's going to be a potential issue as we move forward.
Cool, awesome. So I guess the next sort of question, it's a multi-part question, so we'll see how we go with this one. It's from Jonathan. Can you comment on integrated structural batteries? Surely this must be more expensive to repair than drop-out battery. Higher accident rates, particularly T-bones after fast getaway from the lights because of unnecessary overperformance in vehicles. So multi-part question, but I think the summary is repairability, and I guess some EVs are super fast, and I'm a culprit. I've got a performance Model 3. I've had 4 years. As I say, it's a license to lose your license, so I drive in chill mode. But what are you guys seeing around that? Is there more chance that high performance EVs are crashing more than Porsches and whatever else? And sort of, what does that structural battery pack repair looks like?
I might jump in there first if you want, guys. I think part of what we talked about before about frequency comes into that. So there's certainly a slightly higher frequency accident rate with EVs. I think part of that does come down to you do tend to drive an EV differently, or need to drive an EV differently to an ICE vehicle. if you're jumping between an ICE vehicle and EV, you may hit the throttle a bit too hard or the brake a bit too hard, whatever the case may be. So there can be more, I think, instances of that sort of T-bone jumping the lights or something like that. So definitely it's, I think, a higher risk for EVs than non-EV vehicles.
Anything
Yeah,
to
and
add there?
from our point of view, yeah, we are seeing some of that higher frequency. I can't say from the incidents we've looked at, particular examples of T-bones at lights because of that. But there's a obvious correlation to draw between the increased performance and possibly leading to some of those higher frequencies.
When an EV can beat a V8 supercar on the quarter mile, it sort of does tend to, put insurers' hairs up at the back of our necks, I think. So anyway.
But it's pricing insurance is such a mix of different factors. There's the vehicle, there's the driver, there's where the car is parked overnight, where it's driven and how often it's driven during the day. There's so many factors in it, and understanding that driver behavior is a key part of pricing insurance that can be the hard one to crack.
And I guess from a repair, Richard, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, look, it's a hard one for manufacturers. Like the reason why they've made the batteries part of the main belly pan is to help spread the weight out to get the optimum handling and performance, especially for Australian conditions. We do have the roughest roads in the world. We do have the poorest kept roads in the world too, in a lot of situations. So the better we have that vehicle handling, obviously the safer it's going to be. And also the center of gravity of these cars is super low because they're doing it that way. And for rollover stability, you can't go past an EV really. And but yeah, look, swap and go batteries would be a lot cheaper in a lot of situations, but looking at all the reports on those vehicles, they do say that the handling is heavily impacted. So when we start looking at our 5-star ratings, we definitely would be struggling to get 5-star ratings with some of the way these vehicles are weighted with just a swap and go.
Oh, interesting.
So look, I think it's going to be a wish that won't come true in the way of creating a swap and go battery. But then again, technology is changing in a hurry, so I won't say that it'll never happen. But yeah, it's one of those things that if they can, as volume comes and prices start to reduce and battery replacements become standard practice and we can get individual components, it is going to start to reduce. We're right at the pointy end of the transition, and it's always going to be expensive to start with. When it comes to performance, yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have a lot of people running out of talent really, really quick if they don't have the skills. So, look, you're never going to stop that from happening, just like we saw with the high performance V8s back in the day too. They were always the ones that crashed the most, and yeah, you're not going to stop it. But these days, the EVs just make that power way more available at a low price point, and yeah, so you're going to have a lot more people with them.
Yeah, that's also a very interesting point around the change in technology, right? And then the battery swapping, I cover China closely, and battery swapping is becoming a very big thing, and which means that it's only a matter of time before that's another element that we'll need to start to consider when it comes to insurance. There's some cars that are sold with batteries. Some are sold with battery as a service, and who owns what, and degradation. I think Shawn, you touched on earlier. All of those things. It's not just the cars anymore. It's basically everything else. And then you've got big battery companies like CATL. I think they've just launched a vehicle that NITA, one of the big manufacturers, is producing in China, where it's just a complete skateboard design. You put whatever top hat on it you want.
Yep.
And those battery companies are getting more and more into becoming partial vehicle OEMs. So it's a really dynamic space at the moment. So thank you for answering that one. Let's see what else have we got. So this one is from Stephen Du. If repairs are taking longer, what is its link to the insurance cost?
Yeah, so I'll jump in on that. for us, we normally have to provide a hire car when a vehicle's in being repaired. So if a car is in a repair shop for an extra 2 weeks or 3 weeks while we're waiting for parts, we're supplying a vehicle to that customer while their vehicle's in being repaired. So that hire car cost on average adds on to the cost of insurance. So it's just the time factor it takes to get that vehicle repaired. And also vehicles in repair shops, it can add slightly to the repair cost if it's taking up room, they're moving it around. They may end up being a bit extra labor there as they're having to sort of work around it. But normally it's associated with the hire car costs.
Ooh, anything to add there, Shawn?
No, Steve covered it well.
Awesome. The next question is from our president, Chris Jones. Does the panel see a link between new-fangled EVs in-cabin technology causing distraction and causing accidents?
I'll jump in on this one because this is something that I do a bit of work in as well. It's not just EVs, it's right across the entire new vehicle market. We've got so much technology that's trying to distract the driver. But the worst distraction in a vehicle is a smartphone. If you look at the accident rates, fatal accident rates around the world, you'll see a decline in accident and fatal accident rates until about 2008, 2009, as smartphones started to hit the market, and then it upticked and started really climbing again right around the world. So the vehicles now are just an extension of the smartphone. Most OEMs are trying to have their own look and feel in the cabin, but a lot of that look and feel is attached to your smartphone. It's your Android or your Apple phone, your music, Apple CarPlay, Android CarPlay, things like that. And I've seen research where those different CarPlay, Apple CarPlay and Android CarPlay can be more distracting than having a drink driving breathalyzer of 0.05. So it's actually more distracting than being slightly, over the limit. So it's not just for EVs, it's right across the whole new vehicle segment we're seeing this, and it is a concern, I think, for all insurers as well as OEMs, and especially how the different different companies integrate different ways to interact with technology. So like the new Everest, I think some of the functions are on the center screen. With some of the Teslas, you've got to change the wiper speed on the center screen rather than a stalk, things like that. So it does make it hard when there's no sort of set standards for that HMI, that human machine interface connection.
Interesting. Shawn, are you any trends in research?
Look, that's similar to what Steve just said. It's certainly driver distraction's a big issue now that it wasn't before, and it's not only an EV topic. Some of the electric vehicles are leading the charge with that in-car technology, but the petrol and diesel cars are getting it as well. So we believe it's crucial to start to inform drivers about that, and even potentially change some of the driving test criteria. It's just not, driving tests haven't evolved a lot, but cars have evolved incredibly in the last 10 years.
Even the training of drivers when they pick up their new vehicle, how to interact with the vehicle. A lot of people just pick up the new vehicle, grab the keys and head out, and then the car tries to kill them between the dealership and home. So they don't understand the warning systems and what the vehicle is actually trying to communicate. So there's a lot of things happening in that cabin these days.
That's a very good point again, because manufacturers doing things differently, notifications, buzzes, beeps, education is very different. I've had the opportunity of helping many people go and pick up a new Tesla, and it's a very interesting experience, and how quickly it is. It basically expects the new driver to be quite well informed and know exactly what a lot of the things are, which, as we know, takes time and habits to change and for us to learn new things. So yeah, a lot that the industry needs to do. The next one might be for you to get started with. Are technicians required to obtain before being permitted to repair the brand's vehicle? Is that what we're seeing in the EV space as well?
Sorry, the phone, volume cut out there for a little bit, Riz, but I think I've got what you're asking. So you're talking about the training, that they've got to be trained before EV? Correct. So there's the Australian standards AS 5732 that applies to the service and repair of electric vehicles. So all repair shops have to abide by that, and it states that they have to have the skills and knowledge to be doing the repairs that they're doing. Even tyre shops, they need to have someone on site that knows about electric vehicles, so a qualified technician that knows about hybrid electric vehicles. That's even just to change their tyres. But when it comes to servicing, then the service person must have the knowledge and skills for the work they're doing. So yeah, so New South Wales is looking at possible licensing of the EV qual at the moment, so that they're looking at possibly having it so that you've got to hold the skill set 64 and skill set 63, which is basically all the units are available for the EV specific units before they can actually touch a car, which is what they're looking at the moment. And WA is looking at a similar thing. So it's all only at early stages of them looking in those paths at the moment, but it's more than likely going to happen. So, but at this stage, yes, there is Australian standards that states that they must have the skills and knowledge. So they must have a unit of competency from a RTO or OEM training for that particular vehicle. So that's the two requirements.
Awesome, thank you for that. This next one's an interesting one because it's to do with 12-volt ancillary batteries. And do EVs chew through those faster than ICE vehicles? If so, does this impact insurance claim frequency and consequently premiums?
I can touch on the battery part. I won't touch on the insurance part. I'll leave that to Steve and Shawn. But when it comes to the 12-volt batteries, yes, they do in a lot of situations wear out quicker than it does on an ICE car because of the amount of amps that's being used for the vehicle to communicate. So you've got with all your app programs that you've got like with those of you that have got the Teslas that are there watching their cameras and that all the time and getting the constant feedback from it. A lot of the other makes and models do the exact same thing. So the car is awake and talking all the time. So whenever that happens, it's going to be using a charge to make that happen. That's why they do have long storage modes and cold weather modes and stuff like that to help reduce the amount of power usage that it's using from the auxiliary as well as the main battery. So, but yeah, because of that, that is the case. You would have seen on the earlier model Teslas, they went from the normal flooded battery to now they've got the lithium battery. That is to help extend the life of the auxiliary battery, but all manufacturers are doing a similar thing to that to try and get better life out of their auxiliary batteries.
Cool.
Yeah. On the insurance front, the 12-volt battery is wearing out quicker. That's not really an insurance related sort of coverage. We don't cover wear and tear of those batteries. So if they do expire shorter than what you would expect, then it's just a normal battery replacement that the customer would pay for. So it's not really covered by an insurance product.
And Shawn,
or a warranty issue.
Warranty, yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'd like to see a Ford or someone try it. I tried that with my battery. It didn't work on my vehicle, but anyway.
Cool. So, question from Tim. Are you providing insurance research to fleet insurers who observe what appears to be a delay in knowledge and understanding about EVs and fleet insurers compared to the retail market? This one might be for you, Shawn.
Look, we as part of IAG, we do insure fleets and our work through that part of our company. Our expertise comes along with that. So I guess it's coming through that avenue. Our electric vehicle research feeds through the whole company. But yeah, if it's particular fleets doing self-insurance or somewhere outside of our company, I wouldn't be able to comment on it beyond what we do for anyone that insures with us.
Yeah, it's same with Suncorp. We the knowledge that I get and other team members get, we share within the entire organisation. So there may be some fleet brokers that may be less engaged, perhaps, but certainly there's knowledge within our business that can be shared, and fleet operators or brokers can ask questions when they get questions from fleet operators. So no problem there at all normally.
For sure. So this one is, I guess, looking a bit into the future, and I guess what's happening presently. We all know Tesla's autopilot. That technology is getting, full self-driving, whatever that looks like. There's autonomous cars running in the US, China, and all the rest of it. So what effect will increasing levels of autonomy have on insurance premiums for everybody else?
Riz, I think we're going to need another hour.
Yeah, that's something.
Probably a
That's a
totally
big one.
different webinar, that one, but yes. Yep. Shawn, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Look, happy to start. It's a big topic, that one, and it's a whole new topic around automated vehicles and how insurance works and so on. Look, long and short of it, I suppose, is that automated vehicles at even level 3, I'll just assume people know the different levels, but level 3 and then beyond is still a while away here in Australia. The National Transport Commission's working on the regulations for Australia now, but they won't be rolled out for 2 to 3 years, maybe longer. Look, beyond that, automate from an insurance perspective, an automated vehicle takes out the least reliable component of any car, which is the driver. There should be some positive flow-on effects. It becomes very complicated around the regulations and who's at fault and all those things, and just the infrastructure that has to be in place for an automated vehicle to operate effectively. And that's before we even start to talk about different states and territories having different rules and regulations and infrastructure and so on. There's a whole minefield here. So yeah, look, it was a joke at the start, but really there's an hour's discussion in that.
Yeah, no, I've been working in the automated vehicles sector for about 14 years, part of the Australian Driverless Vehicle Initiative and other bodies that have worked on it. Legislation is being drafted, it's being worked through. It's based on the UK legislation that's already in, which was based on the Australian legislation that was in draft. They were much quicker than us, their parliament much quicker than us, which is unusual. But yeah, we are heading in that direction, and as Shawn said, there's definite benefits with the technology. It's already being proven to be safer than human drivers when you look at millions of miles or travelled and how many collisions and fatalities they've had. But there are challenges in bringing that legislation into Australia with our state and federal structure. So it is coming. There will be benefits, and certainly benefits for insurers and customers around fault determination. I think will be an interesting one because there'll be so much more data generated and captured. And certainly I think submissions that we're put in and others are put in around being able to access that data to help with that fault determination. So there's no disputes, no real argument at that time of an accident. There should be almost instant determination and then understanding what the next steps are and that sort of thing. So certainly interesting times ahead, and the insurance sector is certainly gearing up for it right now, rewriting PDSs, trying to understand what a driver means in the new world. But yeah, it's definitely another hour plus, I think, for a webinar on that one.
And Richard, anything to sort of add there, like your thoughts on it? Or are we going to have basically automated apprentices to work on EVs, aka robots, into the future?
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier about how part of the government funding that we've got for the National EV Centre of Excellence is to continue to make sure that we're creating new programs to fill those additional training needs. So when we start getting towards obviously we've got ADAS already. So it'll be obviously in addition to that as advances more and more. So so watch this space. But yeah, the government's already planning ahead with making sure that training will be available when it's needed.
Cool. So this one may be slightly tricky, but it's the last one that we're going to ask. Which EV brands are the most expensive to insure? I know you may not be able to answer this, but it's just we thought we'll ask a slightly tricky one to end things tonight. But yeah, we appreciate any insights you may have around particular brands, or is it an industry that's just continuously evolving and everything is expensive until it's not?
You want me to jump in, Shawn? You want me to take that hot one first?
Sure. Yeah.
I thought you would. To be honest, I can say Tesla was the most expensive to insure simply because they were trying to do an Apple and control as much of that repair process and parts process as possible. They only had, in the early years of Tesla, I think 3 or 4 repair centers in Australia. So we were spending a hell of a lot of money on shipping vehicles across Australia to get repaired at times, which was just crazy, up and down the East Coast or even from the West Coast. These days, there are so many different brands and models coming to market, it could almost change daily. I think it's sort of much more of an even playing field between the different OEMs. Tesla's certainly dramatically improved their part supply, their methods, access to data, things like that, and have actively worked with all insurers around the world to improve that total cost of ownership experience, with insurance being a major part of that. So Tesla early, but I think these days it's probably much more of an even playing field on who's more expensive and who's not. It's pretty much what day of the week it is probably the best way to answer that question. Sean?
Yeah. Yeah, that covers it well. It's making sure, like we talked about at the start, the repair network is there. So yeah, in short, it's a question that's very hard to answer in terms of giving you a list of here's the top 3 and here's the bottom 3. Just and there's so many factors in pricing insurance as well, that like location and the driver and miles driven and all of those things. So but as long as
at night and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. All of that. But yeah, look, the key things here to consider is, does the car brand support a strong repair network? Have they got good parts supply, and are the parts priced well, in terms of inexpensively? Are the repair methods available and good, with good short section repair, like we talked about before with the mega casting having these short section repair? So they're the sort of things that support, insurance pricing that's going to be less expensive.
To give you an idea, we did an experiment years ago now where we basically built a vehicle from parts supplied by an OEM from scratch, and it cost us 10 times the cost of buying that car brand new. Wow. So, headlights, thousands, a bonnet can be thousands, windscreens can be, just ridiculous price. A certain exotic car, the headlights are $60,000 for us, the 2 headlights. I'm not sure if you get gold as part of that purchase or something, but yeah, so a nose to tail accident in a car park can often cost thousands, and then you throw in radar, lidar, all the new sensors that are coming through with the ADAS. And all of these sensors are in crumple zones, they're in impact zones. It's almost the worst place you could possibly pick to put this technology is where they're putting the technology. So from repairability and cost of insurance, that does definitely have an impact on it.
So I guess as we're saying, it's a fast moving industry to observe. Even, the experts like we've had tonight who've seen it very closely evolve, and it's only going to move in a very, very fast paced direction with batteries, EVs, autonomous vehicles, you name it, it's happening, and we're getting so many new brands. It's the number one question I ask when I'm fortunate enough to talk to these brands before they land in Australia. Is your service network, what's repairability looking like? All of those things, just to make sure that they are aware that that is a key concern that the insurance sector has, and it will hinder adoption if we don't get the foundations right. So we've spoken about Tesla and how they've taken, over a decade to establish what they've got now, and things are changing there as well. But every other brand needs to do the same. So thank you so much, Steven, Richard, and Shawn, for your time. Thanks, Ben, for running tech support, and Chris for joining us tonight as well. And yeah, really appreciate everyone joining us tonight and asking questions. I know we didn't get through all of them, but I think we'll probably need 6-hour sessions. But then again, we might not get any guest speakers like the amazing insights that were received tonight. So thank you so much. And we will be doing, I believe, another webinar before the end of the year, possibly a topic that, our audience, our members, industry is interested in. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, thank you so much, Steven, Richard, and Shawn, for joining us, and really appreciate your insights into this, because otherwise we would not have it. So thank you so much.
More than welcome.
Thanks, Riz.
Thank you.
See you
Good
next
night.
time.